Hello friends, welcome back to week 2 of our MOOC on climate change and disaster risk management. In our previous session, we explored how climate change is transforming the natural world through biodiversity loss, coral bleaching, deforestation, and ecosystem disruption. Today, we turn our focus to something even closer to our home. These environmental changes affect us, the people. Because when nature changes, our societies, economies, and daily lives change too. Farmers feel it in their fields, cities feel it in their heat and floods, families feel it in food prices and jobs. This is what we call the socio-economic impacts of change. So, in this session, we will look forward on major 4 key issues. Those are how climate change affects agriculture, water resources, urban areas, and livelihoods. Let's explore each one and understand how these changes are shaping our shared future. Let's begin with the effects on agriculture. Agriculture is the backbone of many economies, especially in a country like India, where nearly half of the population still depends on farming. But farming depends heavily on climate, on predictable rainfall, temperature, and soil moisture. When the climate becomes uncertain, agriculture suffers. Let's take rainfall first. The monsoon, once reliable, has become erratic, arriving late, ending early, or dumping too much rain all at once. For example, in 2023, parts of Maharashtra faced drought while Gujarat and Rajasthan were flooded, all within the same monsoon season. Heat waves are another big threat. Crops like wheat, rice, and maize can't tolerate extreme heat during flowering stages. In 2022, a severe heat wave reduced India's wheat yield by nearly 10% in northern states. Even fruits like apples in Himachal Pradesh are now growing at higher altitudes because lower valleys have become too warm. Water scarcity adds to the challenge. Less snow in Himalayas means less waters in rivers during summer, which affects irrigation. Soil fertility also declines when floods wash away nutrients or when droughts harden the land. Globally too, the food security is at risk. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization FAO warns that climate change could reduce major crop yields by up to 25% by 2050 if current trends continue. But there is a hope. Farmers are adapting climate smart practices like crop diversification, drip irrigation, solar powered pumps, and resilient seed varieties. With the right support, agriculture can become both productive and sustainable. Friends, let's now discuss the effect of climate change on water resources. Water is life, but climate change is making it increasingly unpredictable. Too much water at times, too little at others. In India, we see both floods and droughts becoming more frequent and intense. Heavy rains in short bursts cause flash floods, while long dry spells cause reservoirs to run dry. For instance, 2018 floods in Kerala and 2019 drought in Maharashtra both stemmed from climate extremes just 1 year apart. Glaciers, which feed our major rivers like the Ganga and Brahmaputra, are melting faster than ever. At first, this increases river flow and floods. Later, it leads to reduced water availability. Communities downstream face both disasters and shortages within the same decades. Groundwater, our silent lifeline, is also depleting rapidly. With less rainfall and overuse of irrigation, wells are drying up in the states like Punjab, Haryana, and Rajasthan. And on the other side, rising sea levels are pushing saltwater into coastal aquifers, a process called saltwater intrusion, which makes drinking water unsafe in areas like the Sundarbans, Gujarat coast, and Andaman Islands. The result, a growing water crisis that threatens agriculture, industry, and domestic needs alike. But managing water wisely can make a difference. Rainwater harvesting, watershed restoration, and recycling wastewater are practical solutions being implemented in many regions today. Now, let's move from the fields to our cities, the places where millions of people live, work, and dream. Urban areas are especially vulnerable to climate change because of their dense population, concrete structures, and high energy use. One major challenge is urban heat. Concrete, asphalt, and glass trap heat, creating what we call the urban heat island effect. As global temperatures rise, this makes cities like Delhi, Ahmedabad, and Hyderabad feel several degrees hotter than surrounding rural areas. This affects health, increasing electricity demand for cooling, and worsens air pollution. Another problem is urban flooding. Intense rainfall combined with poor drainage causes streets to flood within hours. Remember the floods in Chennai 2015 and Mumbai 2021 and Delhi 2023. They show how climate change interacts with poor planning to create disasters. When drains are clogged, wetlands are filled, and natural waterways are blocked, cities become vulnerable. Sea level rise adds another layer of risk for coastal cities like Mumbai, Kolkata, and Chennai. By 2050, parts of these cities could be permanently flooded during high tides if emissions continue at the current rate. Urban infrastructure like roads, power lines, housing also face damages from heat, storms, and heavy rain. And of course, the poorest residents, especially those in informal settlements, are the hardest hit. To make cities climate resilient, urban planners are now focusing on green infrastructure, more trees, open spaces, rain gardens, and sustainable drainage systems. These may sound small, but they can make a difference. Finally, let's talk about livelihoods, the ways people earn and sustain their lives. Climate change doesn't damage crops or houses, it disrupts entire livelihoods. Farmers lose income when harvests fail, fishermen struggle when ocean temperatures rise and fish move to cooler waters. Tourism workers suffer when floods or heat waves keep visitors away, and in some regions, people are forced to migrate, leaving their homes in search of safer, more stable opportunities. In India, rural communities are particularly at risk. Droughts in Bundelkhand or floods in Bihar can push families into debt, unemployment, or displacement. Women and children often bear the greatest burden, walking longer distances for water, facing health risks, and losing access to education or income. Even in urban areas, livelihoods are affected. Extreme heat reduces outdoor working hours for construction workers, vendors, and delivery staff. A 2024 International Labour Organization ILO study found that heat stress could reduce global working hours by 2.2% by 2030, equivalent to 80 million full-time jobs. Yet, new opportunities are emerging too in renewable energy, sustainable farming, green construction, and waste management. If guided well, the shift toward a greener economy can create millions of climate resilient jobs. So, friends, as we have seen, climate change touches every part of human life: our food, our water, our homes, and our work. Its impacts are not limited to the environment, they shape our economies, our health, and even our social stability. But these impacts are not felt equally. Some people, especially the poor, the marginalized, and those living in fragile regions, suffer far more than others. While some can adapt or relocate, others lose everything. And this brings us to our next important topic: vulnerability and climate justice. In the next session, we will explore who is most affected by climate change, why inequality matters in climate action, and how the world is addressing issues like climate refugees and justice for vulnerable populations. Because understanding climate change is not just about science, it's about fairness, empathy, and shared responsibility. Thank you for joining me today and see you in the next session.